excited to have everyone join us. Thanks, guys. Jake, a lot of our team has talked to you over the years, lots of communication we've had, and I think our group really loved hearing the story about your organic growth into the online remote lesson business. So I think it'd be a great place to start if you could kind of tell that story. It started a long time ago, and I think it's pretty cool. So can you tell us about that?
Sure. First off, everybody can hear me, right? So like Will and Mandy said, my name's Jake Thurm. If you don't know me, that's fine. Why would you? Welcome, and I'm very honored to speak with you today. I'm actually speaking to you. I know Zoom does like the background stuff. This is not the background stuff. This is actually the putting green I put in my man cave down here. So just so you guys are all welcome in my home. There's a golden tee over there. So it's not a bad place to be quarantined until you add my family to the mix. So anyways, and by the way, this is the only time I've ever gotten dressed in golf attire to go into my basement. So with that said, I feel like I've been a part of V1 for as long as I've been a part of golf. My original mentor was actually my swing coach in college and was Dr. Jim Suddy. Dr. Suddy was a pioneer in 2D research as it applied to golf swings in general, in particular PGA Tour golf swings. He was my swing coach in college. So I have no way of looking at these at the moment, but I have VHS tapes of V1 golf academies from probably the mid 1990s. I'm going to figure out a way to, I'm going to have to go get a VCR or something off Craigslist because I want to check those out. So anyways, I've always been, for 25 years, I've been involved with V1, at first as a student. And then in 2004, I started my own online branded golf academy with V1. And the interesting thing is, and I see this to this day, and I haven't done this in a long time, V1 or other teachers use my V1 swings that I took on the PGA Tour, because that's actually what I used to do when I was trying to learn how to help people. So I used to tape PGA Tour players during practice rounds. And by the way, they are not interested at all in you getting that perfect shot. They don't like wait for you. And if you hit record in their backswing, and picture the giant cameras, like not, I'm talking to you on my iPhone, picture the giant cameras, right? And if you beeped it, like while they were waggling, you're gonna get an awful look. I've got some really great stories and some really awful stories about some major champions that maybe shot me a dirty look. So fast forward from there, Online Golf Academy. I'm hoping today to tell you guys about the things that I did. That was thoughts on that as well. But and I'll tell you the things that made all started to change. My lesson so filled up. Basically, being booked out about 10 years ago. I was developing a nice reputation. So I have, you know, maybe seen on YouTube or some of my channels or what have you, okay? So anyways, not a lot of PGA Tour players live in Chicago, really at all. So most of the ones I've worked with live in Florida or Arizona, one in Texas. So the ability to connect with them virtually was really the overwhelming majority of the interaction that I would have with them. So them learning, actually teaching them how to tape their own swings, which we'll get to, a PGA Tour player, a 5-time PGA Tour winner, and teaching him how to video his own swing. That way I can better communicate with them, was interesting and eye-opening. So I would obviously have to travel for them, and guess what ended up happening? I ended up losing contact or connection with my clients back in Chicago. which actually, as cool as the tour stuff was very sad for me because I'm a Chicago kid. I make my home and I have 3 boys and been married here to a girl from Wheaton for 10 years. And it kind of stunk to lose that connection with the Chicagoland area. So what ended up happening is I would connect with my tour players virtually and then travel to see them and then connect with my clientele virtually. And then this brings me, and at first I didn't even know how to think about that. I always wanted to be with them in person. But honestly, at first I kind of felt like it was a little inauthentic, but then I realized that really they're my clients and I was filling a need. And actually my reach, that I could only have one person in front of me in an hour or so on, that actually my reach, in an hour of virtual lessons, I could reach 10, 12 people, depending on how long you make your videos. We're going to talk about that as well. I certainly did that incorrectly. Anyways, it's a new age. It's really, it's broadened my reach. It has given me passive revenue sources, which is of great interest to me now. In other words, I can't always be earning while working. Otherwise, I'm going to work until I die. And then the other thing that this has really had me do, and this has happened via quarantine, right? I started working with a high-level amateur who's actually at Oklahoma State right now, and they didn't want to wait. Now, again, the old school me is like, well, you know, I got to fly out to you, you got to fly out to me. That's not an option right now. So I have met this player completely virtually, interviewed him, did my screening. So physical screen, if you guys are familiar with a lot of the TPI stuff. So my teaching partner, Dr. Jeremy Smith, we did the screening via FaceTime, and via FaceTime at while they practice, pretty much getting TrackMan numbers, and we'll talk about the V1 FaceTime, which is awesome. But it's really a new world. It's kind of funny how this has all come about. There's been times, like I remember at the British Open when it was at St. Andrews. And by the way, I'm completely kicking myself for not just bucking up and getting the airfare there. But when the British Open was out there, I FaceTimed out there, and I was looking at Kevin Streelman's swing, but I wanted to take it all in. So basically they were taking, if you've ever seen the show Futurama, they were taking my floating head and I was doing a panoramic view just so I could take it all in. It's a new day and age. Coaching is very interesting because I think it's much more consulting work at the highest level. This is what your customers want. I even brought this up to in the medical field, that people want everything right now. So they're pulling up my my web page here, and this is obviously the best way to get in touch with me. But it's a new age dawning. This is what they want. I have had a couple times where I was on the Golf Channel, and that was great and that was fun. And I don't know if anybody on here watches the Golf Channel anymore. I don't. They're playing The Big Break, for crying out loud, from 10 years ago. My interest was always getting into people's phones, because everybody's walking around with a television set in their jeans right now, and I wanted to be there. So that gets you into virtual lessons, that gets you into social media, which I know a lot of you guys, heck, I follow a lot of you guys, I know a lot of you are doing that. Probably the mistake I made there is I thought I would be this this social media superstar, and then I realized that I'm not that interesting. So
although I will tell you, you do have great music taste on your posts. So
well,
you have that.
It's a lot of Prince, it's a lot of 80s music, and it's a lot of, you know, stuff I grew up with. So if you're of that age.
Really quickly, we have a question from Rob that I wanted to ask. It's a good question. He's asking if your pricing for video lessons is different than on-range lessons. Obviously, that is probably.
Yeah.
If you could talk to that.
And you know what? And that was Rob, right? So
yes,
Rob, I've struggled with that a little bit. Like, do you price it? Do you price those online lessons where you honestly, and I'll just say it how I mean it. Do you price those online lessons like hoping to only get a few and not really deal with it? I did that where I made them, what was it? 50% of my hourly rate or something like that. I priced it to make it worth it for me to do it. Or do you go the opposite and do you price it low enough where it's kind of a no-brainer for your clientele, and you start doing a lot of them? And I would tell you, I started off high, and with Mandy's help and so on, and encouragement, and seeing what other guys in the industry are doing, I've brought it down significantly. And again, I got 3 little boys. I like when we weren't quarantined, I like making hockey practice. I like going to baseball practice and all that. So again, I can do more lessons more efficiently. The new updated version allows you to do 10 minutes. Even when it did 5 minutes, I wasn't doing that. I was doing about 2 minutes. I mean, even I can't stand myself after that long. So I would tell you to price your online lessons to move. Okay, because if they're coming online anyways for golf, YouTube's free. Now, everybody on here knows that outside of booze and cigarettes, nothing has screwed up more golfers than YouTube. Okay, I'm not saying that they would get from you. They absolutely would get better at taking online lessons from you. What they're getting from you isn't a series of tips. It is a plan. It is a plan for improvement. But I would price them to move. In other words, whatever your rate is, maybe it's 25% of your rate, because if you do 4 within that hour, you're already at your hourly rate. And you can do 4 lessons. And if we're figuring in the minute, the under the 60 seconds it takes to send, you can do that in about 12 minutes. So I don't want to admit to anybody where I was located when I sent those online lessons. You probably could have tell from the acoustics that I could have been in a stall or something. So, but anyways,
you're not sending your videos. You're just analyzing their videos. So
correct. Yeah, they're not seeing that. See, I would not use the FaceTime app on V1 when I'm in the stall sending that lesson. Yeah.
Okay, good. We've disabled that in that portion of your house anyway, so it's
good.
Yeah,
good.
We took care of you there.
Thank you.
So and I know you've been doing this a long time. Specifically, can you talk about the technologies that you're using? Obviously V1, but I know you use a lot of slick stuff. And if you're interested, Jackson is happy to do a little screen share of V1 Pro, but definitely
please do
talk to us about your technologies and the ones you love.
Sure, please do. So I probably gained my notoriety because of technologies, specifically the body track. We'll get into that, but of all the technologies that I use, early 2000s, mid 2000s, I had to have the best camera. And it's so interesting now, and I still have these cameras, and I always talk to Bob Mack. I'm like, why do I still have these things? Can I sell these things, right? And for everybody that's been a V1 user or Branded Academy user for a long time, you guys are fully familiar with the Casio FX100 and the FH1 and so on and so forth, and the Sony, I forget what letters and numbers that one is, but that one's awesome too. And I'll tell you what, if you're looking for the quality of the video that you're saying, if you're looking for the lines on the club as the ball hits it, keep your cameras, okay? And download it onto your laptop and edit it and go to town. I'll be honest. Again, I contemplate selling those a lot because I do the majority of my lessons right on my iPhone and iPad. So I was the first guy, you talking about technologies. I was the first guy that was using the V1 pressure mat at every single major championship. And I was doing that off my iPad and iPhone because I just wasn't going to carry all that other stuff around. So I would tell you this, the decision to make for you is what's your situation. I'm always in and out of an airport. I'm always on the move. Outside of my indoor academy in the winter in Chicago, I don't have a permanent structure or room. I'm usually on a driving range somewhere. So mobility for me, is the most important thing. Now, that might be different for those that are in their academy, especially in warmer clients that are just in their academy, 12 months a year. That's a different situation. I would totally do that. The studio. I don't have a studio. So I am the studio. I'm the one-man band. So anyways, I had all the cameras. I still have all the cameras. I contemplate selling them all the time. Maybe I should drop a link right now. And then, but I do 100% of my lessons now off my iPhone and iPad. It's too convenient. It's too quick. And it's too easy to use. The other technologies I use is the V1 pressure mat, which links up here seamlessly. I think it's such a great idea for clients as they're sending their lessons to you virtually to give you more information so you can better have an idea of what it is that you're actually looking at. And then, obviously radar technology. Right now I'm affiliated with FlightScope, 3D. I have every single portable 3D thing that you can think of. I have them. And then 3D wrist angles, I'm using Hack Motion. But really, I've gained my notoriety as being very open to technology. Hey, there's James Hahn. I know that guy. Yeah, good. There we go. Hey, I know the guy that taped this. Excellent camera angle, by the way. 90 degrees, notice, and the hands are in the middle. You can't get better than this. Anyways, that was at, let me think. I'm going to say that one was at the Dell Technologies, which might be the Deutsche Bank, which might be the Boston TPC. So I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. But that was an interesting week. But so anyways, bringing the V1 pressure mat with me at events, going through airports, no problem. And I just have more information. Getting a radar on tour is easy. One, the player already has it, or two, if you request it, the equipment companies already have it. So the funniest thing is sometimes I don't travel with my radar necessarily.
Cool. And
that one was his. So you guys know, I'll let you guys in a little secret about James Hahn. It's not a secret because everybody knows it. If you get him from 1,000 swing thoughts down to 100, he'll play pretty good that week. And if you get him to 100 down to 10, he'll probably win. So he loves to do swing impressions, and that's how he learned. And this one in particular, watch his follow through. If we can put it to his follow through, please. Whoever's doing that for me, thank you very much. He's very linear with his pressure all the way to his follow through, right? 3/4. Okay, so James never follows through like that. He was doing an impression of Zach Johnson, who was hitting actually behind me as I was taping it. And he goes, "Hey, Jake, who am I?" And then that was his Zach Johnson wedge finish right there. So all that stuff that you guys see from James when he says, "I'm going to swing like Nick Faldo today." And I don't think this is new, by the way. I remember Johnny Miller talked about swinging like Tom Weiskopf when he wanted to draw it, or Lee Trevino when he wanted to fade it. James is very that way. He's very analytical, but a great way to keep him from being paralyzed would be the nice way of saying that, would be he gets an image of a shot or a player in his mind. So he's a really good swing mimic. And that's actually how he learned the game initially. So that's kind of cool that you got his trace and his Zach Johnson impression, what that looks like in terms of the ground. Really cool.
I love that you could diagnose that by looking at that so quickly. And I love the carry-on body track mat. Although I tried to carry mine on the plane after our seminar in North Carolina, and I left my battery in it and got in big trouble for that. So note to self, if you're ever carrying your body track pressure mat on a plane, take the battery out first. Or if you check it, take the battery out first.
When I was traveling with those 3D suits and everything, I was always stopped. And I think they thought it was ticking. So, yeah.
A couple quick questions here before we move on to our next little subject. Oh, look, Alex Clapp from the UK. Alex, hi. Super excited to talk to you here in a second. I know we have, I'm looking to get on the phone with you. He's asking, did you gain a lot of interest on hearsay and through other people, or was it a case of building your online profile via another source?
Right. So I'm happy that these thoughts come to me. I sometimes wonder aloud, why they didn't come to me sooner. So when I thought I was going to be an internet superstar, which again did not materialize, I just told you that I had my target market right in front of me, but I thought I kept them separate. And that's one of the things that, again, I led off with, I would want to know what I did wrong so not to do it. I had my target market right in front of me. In other words, I already told you that I for about almost 10 years that I was booked a month and a half out in advance. And my thinking was, okay, good. Now I'm going to reach all these people on the internet that I'll never meet. And if you do it that way, unless you have 180,000 followers on Instagram, I'm telling you, you're going to have about 4 or 5. And that's if you have a couple thousand followers on whatever. So what I started doing is I started packaging my online lessons in between. So in other words, when they, oh, Jake, you're so busy now. It's not like it used to be. And I'm like, well, I didn't want it to be how it used to be. I can't get in to see you for a month. I started packaging in just a little add-on. I said, well, why don't you pay just this little add-on? I'll give you access to my online academy and you can send me your swing in between, because what do they say? Well, I want to make sure that I'm doing it right. So that's the person you want to be working with, right? They're afraid to, I'm all for making people their own coach. It's just really crappy business plan. Okay. You need them to need you, right? I want you to want me. So anyways, with them, I gave them a little bit add-on to their private lesson. I told them to send me as many swings in between when they're practicing. Guess what ended up happening? Yeah, a couple guys are going to send you a lesson every day, right? Or send you a swing every day. There's a couple guys that'll do that. But there's also a couple that send you once a week, once in between their lessons, so on and so forth. So the guy that sends you everything, you know what? You're constantly connected with them. You're never too far from their thoughts. There's inherent loyalty to you as an instructor because you're constantly communicating, right? And they were presenting me with a problem that I wasn't coming up with a solution. So when people go, and I think you guys said this in the past, I think it only goes back 180 days. Correct me if I'm wrong. 180 days. And of that 180 days, I've been, how much of that in quarantine, right? A half or not even, maybe over a month. I've done 680 or 581 lessons that I've sent out, which you guys told me that I had no idea, no clue. And I know I can look
really
at
busy. We used to be much busier than you thought, right?
Well, I was busier than I thought. And then I said, if you know what, if that's the case, then if you catch me in the summer, it'd be well over 1,000. There's no doubt about it. So my target market, who was telling me there was a problem and I wasn't presenting them with a solution, their problem was, Jake, we want to stay in more communication with you. I started offering all my online V1 branded golf academy to them for an additional add-on. I started using it. So something that I'm very proud of is my work with juniors in Chicago. To be honest, I don't even really care if I coach another adult in my life. I love working with kids. They're inherently more coachable. For those that don't know, my degree is actually in child psychology. Okay. So I am not a failed PGA Tour player. I'm a failed social worker. Okay. I was supposed to be a child psychologist and I realized I wasn't tough enough to do that. So children and golf has always been my passion. So in the time that I've been at one of my locations in Oak Brook, we took that Nike Junior Golf Camp it was already a successful program. I mean, honestly, from 200 kids. And last year we did just shy of 650. And that's in a 10-week period. And about 5-6 years ago, I challenge you. I know a lot of people out there are doing group lessons. I know they're doing a lot of camps and stuff, just like I'm doing. If you don't do a survey, you should. And I like to pour a drink before I read it because I know it's going to upset me. But if you can force yourself to read it, listen, the only people that are going to write on a survey want to tell you, everything that you're doing wrong. Okay. So again, I pour a little scotch. over at the bar over there. And I take a deep breath and I read it. And one of the common complaints that I got 6 years ago was that, okay, the camp was great, but we didn't feel we had any dialogue or communication with the coaches. Now, the funniest thing is these camps were designed for new golfers. We were introducing kids to golf. Like, this is the end of the club to hold kind of stuff. And then I'm getting these parents saying, so ultimately what we ended up doing is we had a written thing by each one of their coaches in each one of their stations, you know, short game, full swing, putting. And this added some time to my schedule, of which I have no time. I started giving every single, so almost 650 last year, every single kid left with a V1 golf lesson from me. Now, I have since given some of that duty to my staff, who is also on I employ 5 PGA professionals that all work in my camps, classes, and programs. I handed some of that off, but initially I did all of it. I'm just that way. I only trust myself to do things initially, and let's see if they fly. That did add a lot of time. Those lessons were a minute. They were like, here's the priority, here's the next step. Because that's the other thing. The reason that they felt that they wanted to communicate more with me is because they didn't know what the next step was. And the next step, I was always like, private lessons. Great, I'm already booked a month and a half out.
Right.
So basically, private lessons. So they went someplace else. It's a really bad business model. So every single one of them went home with a V1 branded Golf Academy lesson. And what I included on there was links to all of my programs. And I developed the USA Junior National Golf Team program, which what I dubbed as the next step. So we call Nike Golf Camp D1, and then we call USA Junior Golf Team D2, Future Stars, Pre-Elite, and Elite. And basically that program set up for the next 10 years, where basically I want them from 8 until 18. And that is a 12-month-a-year program, because that's another thing. You see all these kids in your camps for 10 weeks, and you're sitting there doing the math going, well, why they gotta go? You know, why they gotta leave? Why do they stay with me? You know, what would that be? And I am a big advocate. Remember, my background, behavioral sciences, child psychology. I am a big advocate, and some of the organizations out there have not been teaching us how to, they've made us very good employees, not employers, right? Or business owners. I was asked a long time ago, Jake, are you a hard worker or are you a good businessman? And I begrudgingly said, I'm probably a hard worker. But when your target market is talking, even if it's criticism, what they're actually telling you is what they want to spend their money on. So come up with the solution. So I'm a USA Junior Team, which is a 12-month program. I have over 30 families that pay me monthly rent. Basically, I'm communicating with them constantly through V1, and it's not just golf lessons. So my teaching partner is a doctor of physical therapy. So he's doing screenings and using V1 Golf Academy, drawing lines for, again, if you're familiar with TPI, you would know some of that. Overhead squats, valgus angle, dissociation, all that kind of stuff. So we're using them to continually communicate. And that's what we're doing right now. We might be on hiatus of the in-person practices, but right now we are communicating. You need only go onto my Instagram channel. I am always showing off my kids. I'm the most proud of that program of anything I've ever done. And it's all V1 branded Golf Academy stuff. Sometimes it's stills, sometimes it's swings. Sometimes they're making swings in rooms they really shouldn't be right now, but you know what? Maybe a little pressure to the practice isn't so bad when like the fine china is up on the wall and stuff. So
Right. You know, you made a comment about your camps only being 10 weeks, but I'm sure all of us parents would love for you to go ahead and take our kids. If you're ready, let us know. Because I think they can school everywhere, and I'm happy to send my kids to you for the next 10 weeks until school's out.
Yeah, because those would be the only kids right now that I don't want to kill, because I can't stand mine at the moment. I sit there and wonder with each one of them, who are you? You know? So yeah, no, I always tell the parents, I'm good with the parents, obviously, in those camps. I always tell them, like, listen, I understand that this is a respite for you as well. Okay. And I always go, you guys are more than welcome to watch everything we do, but why the heck would you? Get the hell out of here, you know? So leave them with us.
We have a question, and there's a question I want to answer as well, but we have a question about specifically in your online lesson / analysis, what do you include? I mean, obviously they're asking, does it include audio commentary, or do you have personal videos or specific drills? So I know there's kind of a couple pieces that you send back. Can you address that one?
The answer is yes.
Right?
Yeah, the answer is yes. To everything that you just said, I have given lessons that way. So I have an extensive database, like I said, from all my time taping on the PGA Tour. And I think it's a wonderful way to learn, okay? I also think at times it's a depressing way to learn. So here's my point on this. One of the tour players I worked with, one of my best friends in the world, is Kevin Streelman, and I won't say who, but he's had a lot of great coaches, and Kevin really likes the swing of Ben Hogan. I mean, who doesn't? He's hanging on the wall somewhere in here. So at first, Kevin very much wanted to swing like Hogan. So all the analysis was of Kevin next to Hogan. And at first that was good. You know, the funniest thing is it's so often in golf instruction, the solution becomes the problem. Eventually it just became depressing. So, and I realize this with, not to genderize, because I'm sure the dudes out there can appreciate this too, but I realize with ladies, they didn't necessarily love seeing themselves compared to somebody else and so on and so forth. And again, not to genderize that, because I was very happy that I fit in my golf pants after a month of being in quarantine. I'm getting a little puffy. But direct comparison is one of V1's strengths in terms of analysis. But I would caution you to be careful and learn your player on that. Sometimes people don't want to be compared to Adam Scott, because I don't want to be compared to Adam Scott. I can't do any of that. So hence the physical screen that we give. So have I sent pros next to other players? Yes. Has that helped players? I think so. But I think you got to know your audience there. What I definitely love to do is I love to send drills. And these drills are pre-taped thing that I did at the PGA show 2 years ago with Kelly. And I love to send these little common drills that I give for common faults. So basically to splice them into your video. So you have a beginning, you have a middle and an end, right? I like to put the drills in there, and the person that I like to show the most in their lesson is them. So I want to showcase them. There's a stronger belief pattern when they see themselves do it. So as opposed to, we know Justin Rose can do it, right? So make your point on that, but be quick about it. And then I'm a big advocate in not having them go so long. I opened at the beginning talking about those VHS tapes. The biggest reason I want to see those VHS tapes with Doc is because I know how much dead air is on them. Where it's just like you hear like papers rustling around, you hear like something falls, that he maybe spills his coffee. I like those are my memories forever. How much that was really helping my golf game, I don't think any. So I try to be really, I get in and I get out. I try to do it in about 90 seconds to 2 minutes. So, and again, add my little video, add themselves. And then I love to do, this is just me, I love to do with V1, I love to do progression videos. In other words, I like to show them at the beginning of where they were. And then I like to show them at the end of the, 90 seconds, 2 minutes, where they are or where they're going. And I want them to see themselves do it. And I don't care if it happened while they hit a golf ball. I don't care if it happened with an internal cue, external being a drill or a training aid. I don't care. I want them to see themselves do it by the end so they know where we're going. Now, you and I both know that if I move that noodle, that they're going to come over the top, hit down on it, across it, and slice a living tar out of it, especially if I make 20 people come over and watch them. But it strengthens the message of the change, right? That they are capable. if they can just see themselves do it once. Otherwise, most of your clientele believes themselves to be untalented. And I think a big part of coaching is tearing down walls and proving otherwise. A lot of your clientele believes many things to be gospel, and that's what's limiting their ability to do it. So that's what I like to show them doing it. It's an elimination theory. You know what? If they can't do it with a golf ball, take away the golf ball. If they can't do it with a club, take away the club. Have them just do pivot isolation drills and send that to them. That's another thing. I love cutting in my own drills if I think of it later. But what would be better is to have them do the drills and to use their language. For the in-person lesson, I usually use the language that they use, not the language that I use to all these instructors here today, because that has more meaning to them. But if you're meeting them virtually, I would hope that there's some dialogue there. I always get in the description, they tell me this is, because I always want to know ball flight stuff. This is where the ball starts, this is the way the ball curves, all that kind of stuff. And whatever words they use, I use their words in their lesson. Because that's something you learn in therapy, that it's all about the client, it's not about you. So the person that should be the most present in their own lesson is them.
Cool. And Jake, what's the time frame on that voiceover that you're doing? I know, I'm just curious. No one asked us. I'm just curious because you just increased it to 10 minutes. But I don't need 10 minutes of instruction personally. That's way too much for me. I only need the one club face thing, right? So what's your average voiceover time frame? Just curious.
90. So I was told, and this is always changing, we are less present as a society than ever. So everybody always asks if my sons are getting really good at golf during quarantine. And I was like, yeah, Mario Golf. So we're less present as a society than ever. And anytime that I hear the latest research says, so like YouTube, how long are people watching these videos, right? They say about just under 3 minutes. So I cut mine in half. So 90 seconds tops, me speaking.
Cool.
I know I just knocked dead air on my old VHS, but by the way, this was like 8-9 minutes of dead air, okay? It's okay to play the video when they're doing something, when they're moving how you want them to move, and to say nothing. That way they're absorbing themselves doing it. They're almost having an out-of-body experience in terms of learning. So don't be thinking just because the video is going that you have to talk, especially if they're doing something right. Let them take it in. Don't add to it. That's an old thing in color commentation in sports. When these great moments are happening, sometimes a lot of producers turn their lead analysts' mics off, so you could take in the whole atmosphere. So don't be afraid to do that in your video.
Cool. So, and Jake, I don't know if you know the answer to this, because I don't. How long can a drill be when you add it on? Will Clark might have to jump in. Do you know the length of the drill that can be added to an online lesson?
Will can speak to that. I know for a fact mine are not even 30 seconds.
Yeah. Will, can you answer how long the drills?
Yeah, I don't believe there is a limit because these videos are coming from outside of the software. Software limits you to a minute on the mobile side. Obviously a little different on the desktop, but as far as I know, no limit.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Will. And a couple of questions just real quick that, yes, I think my team's answering the pressure mat. Thank you is awesome. We agree. I'm sure Jake agrees. And yes, it connects very seamlessly and easily via Bluetooth to the V1 Pro app. During your last answer, you mentioned your online academy. I wanted to ask you how you're connecting right now with your students. I also wanted to show off a new product that V1 has pushed out, because I know a lot of golf instructors have been, cannot go into their academies. So how are you connecting with your students? And then I'm hoping that leads us to show them the group here today, our new landing page, and then your personal, what we're calling the V1 Marketplace page.
Sure. So I was thinking about this the other day. If this would have happened to me, it's not happened to me, it's happened to the whole world, but I'm turning in terms of my business. If quarantine and the coronavirus would have happened 20 years ago, my first initial thought would have been, I need to be doing something else. This is no way to start off a business and so on. And I hope no one on here is contemplating that. If not, message me privately and we'll talk. Because I'm actually taking the opinion, thank goodness this has happened in this day and age. Because 20 years ago, to be in touch with your student 25 years ago, you would have had to have shipped a cassette for them to play on their camera. So you'd have had to like UPS it to them. And again, I'm of the generation that we were drawing our lines before you could draw the lines on the V1 app. We were using dry erase markers on a CRT TV and drawing lines that way. Yeah, so I know I look young, but I'm not that young. Anyways, I was doing that. I was taking my lessons that way. So if that was the day and age right now, I'd be concerned. Here's the other thing, and I know the overwhelming majority of the people on here have their own V1 account or V1 branded academy. But even if you don't, you should consider getting one for this reason alone. And I really kind of feel weird saying this with V1 on here because I think they're going to start charging me more. They have every single lesson I've ever given since 2003 or 4, like I said. I have every cell phone and every email of every client I've ever had. Now, if you don't have a V1 branded golf academy, you still have access to that information. And in this time, if you're sitting there going, well, I'll see my clientele when this is over, the world could be a very different place when this is over. If you walk away with nothing else today, go on there, get every single email, get every single cell phone, and email blast them, which I know is something that V1 has been talking about, helping you guys, all the industry professionals, stay in contact. Email blast your clientele. If you've never done an online lesson before, offer it for free. Seriously, your job is, and I know what you're thinking, well, if they start taking online lessons from me, they're going to stop taking private lessons with me. Good. You know what you just did? You just kept a customer and you opened up space for a new customer, right? So now you just doubled it up. I hope that they get hooked on your online academy. I already told you it's a lot less work and a lot more money, and you're building inherent loyalty, and you're freeing up more of your time to fill with other clientele, or like I said, go to hockey practice. Okay, so good. Get in contact with them right now. I'm just waiting for JB Pritzker to tell me how much longer we're all going to be out of commission. But with that said, I'm actually seeing this as an advantage, and I hope everybody on here starts seeing it as well. I mean, don't you now finally have time to do all the things that you dreamed about doing? And online golf, it's so funny. It's like practicing golf. Okay, if you focused on your putting, I am of the firm belief that you would improve your putting. If you focused on your online lessons, then I'm convinced that you will have an online golf academy. Don't wait. If you wait, all the rules might be changed by the time that we're all able to go back outside and do it the same way we've always been doing it. Because here's the other thing that's happening. Your target market's changing too. So if you're expecting them to come all back, but they want this now, then unfortunately you're going to lose them to me. Don't lose them to me, right? Because I'm already offering this. So get in contact. V1 has already told me that they're going to help you with this. Get in contact. Email blast to your clientele. Offer it. Give it. I'm not telling you. I mean, a lot of the previous generations of instructors already know this. You have to learn how to serve hors d'oeuvres, but make them pay for steak. Okay. Give them a quick little online snippet. Teach them how to tape their swings. If you teach a lot of juniors, you know who I'm coaching the most is the parents, because I'm in this moment of quarantine. They're hitting a lot of balls into nets, into sheets, gosh knows what. And guess who's taping that swing? It's their parent. So you know what I'm actually coaching the parent? I'm coaching them to see their son or daughter's swing through my eyes. because your job as a coach wasn't to have them. Yeah, and we've all had this happen. I was coaching this junior, they were showing a lot of progress, and then they played golf with dad and they got all screwed up. Well, that's your fault. That's completely your fault, because your job as an instructor wasn't convince them to never play golf with their dad again. They were supposed to play golf with your dad. You were to coach. You're not just coaching the junior, you're coaching the parent how to see the swing through your eyes, because they're going to spend more time with them than you are. That's what's happening right now in quarantine. And that's how I'm using to virtually connect with the kids. Yes, they are showing growth with their games, but the biggest growth that I'm experiencing is with the parents, where they're on my side, where we're all rowing in the same direction. Otherwise, somebody needs to toss me overboard. Okay. Anyways, so it's an interesting time, but thank God it was this time, because everybody has a camera good enough in their phone to tape a golf swing. That wasn't the case 25 years ago. Okay. I think, and what I'm saying is the market's changing. Everybody knows that the same amount of golfers are coming into the game that are coming out of the game, right? And that probably is the case for the same amount of lesson takers. The ones that don't see a return on investment are probably out on lessons. And then the ones that do are probably in. So the ones that have seen a return on investment, if you don't have this offering, they want to take lessons. And I'm sure that you're great, and I'm sure you already have that loyalty built in, but you're running an inherent risk in this downtime of them going to somebody else because they want their lessons now. Remember, they're telling you how, yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say, so how do they find you? Because if they want their lessons right now, like right now today, all these pros that are logged into our webinar, how can we get them to find you right now? I bet I know.
Yeah, I would say one, this goes back to my initial stupid premise that I was going to be an internet star and everyone would love me. Don't wait for them to get to you. Go get to them. You already have, an entire database in your V1 account of all the pertinent information to reach out to them, to let them know you're still here, to let them know you have this offering, to let them know how you're going to do this, to teach them how to tape their swings.
And then also, we've created a landing page. Jackson,
yeah.
Can you show this? So, V1's we've been doing online remote lessons for a very, very long time. So we have
longer than anybody.
We have created a page for students to go search for online. Jackson, are you going there? Your screen is like, so there it goes. I feel like I should talk slower. Online golf lessons. There it is. So we're going to click to that page, and we will see a list of instructors that we have built a web portal for. So Jake has a web portal with a link right there. And guys, this portal allows the student to purchase a lesson and attach their videos from their locker to Jake's locker, all in one portal. Right there, you can see Jackson. That's the add to cart. When you do that and process that payment, it automatically has you send your lessons through. So this is a product that is included with our software. We pushed it out for you guys right now. If anyone is interested, please feel free to reach out to my team. Sales team at v1sports.com will get you set up ASAP. We would love to get everyone connected so they can do this quickly and easily.
This is your, for all the instructors on here, this is your first email blast, right? Yep. This is where they need to be directed. This is everybody, regardless, needs to go here with you. I was trying to see what instructors you had ahead of me. That better be because of alphabetical or something there. But
Jackson, put that away. Jackson, put that away.
Jackson, yeah.
Jackson, good. Okay. Just kidding.
I know it's Mike Shy. I know it. All right.
And so, Jake, another thing that you mentioned is, what are we doing? What can we be doing right now to grow and get better?
Yeah.
Since we have a little bit of downtime and you're doing your lessons so much faster than in-person lessons. What kind of certifications or continuing education are you doing?
Right. So obviously there's certifications for the V1 pressure mat. I had a hand in that. I'm obviously going to tell you to do that. Anything to show growth. Certifications are good. If that's what's available to you, then that's what you should do. I know that there's a previous generation of instructors on here, and my way is not currently, that on-ramp is closed. My way was to drive a Nissan Altima into the ground and drive across the country 6 times going and watching instructors teach. It's not available. We can't do that right now. So in this day and age, certifications, podcasts, does anyone read anymore? I still do. But anything like that to help you grow is what I would be using this time. I always get, and it's a great compliment. I always get complimented on my ability to speak in front of a camera, to speak to people. I don't care if you have an audience of 1, start doing it now. Start taping content from your house. I've got this up on a camera stand and all this kind of stuff. Get it out there, put it out there. I'm of the same way. I'm a perfectionist. There's things that like, I'm like, that could have been better. That couldn't, honestly, I just sent them to my mom and I asked her, is this okay? And she doesn't even play golf. So she's like, yeah, it's great. You're great. But I can't even watch myself. But what inherently happens is when you have this time to get good at something, which would probably mean that at the beginning you'll suck at it. So after the initial suckage, you tend to get more comfortable with things. There's a lot of people out here that are watching right now who absolutely could be hosting this. And there's a lot of people that have the ability to host this. They don't have the reps. So I would be using this time, certifications, education, reaching out. We're talking about virtual lessons. How about virtual mentorships? And that's what I'm offering for me personally. You can go through my website or my social channels, reach out to me, DM me, tell me this was good, bad, or indifferent. But virtual mentorships, I think right now is the most giving time in instruction, especially with all that we're dealing with. I wrote some letters 20 years ago that were not responded to. We'll just assume they didn't reach their person, but I wanted to learn from somebody and they were like, yeah, that's like stealing. I think you can find the people online who are giving of their time. And, it's this old adage, winning's easy, just copy winners. So with this downtime, virtual mentorships of these people that are doing what you want to be doing, I'd connect with them. I really would. And you know what? If you get rejected, that's okay. You move on. It's like getting, ultimately it's like them swiping left. I don't know. I've never been on a dating app. So, but swiping left or right, it's no big deal. Just move on to the next one. So, mentorships is just that. It's seeing someone that is doing what you want to be doing and learning all that you can. And probably the thing that you learn the most is what not to waste your time with, right? That's the most valuable.
Did you know that you can get a level 1 V1 certification just by sending a remote lesson to our certifications email? Did you know it was that easy?
Are you asking me that?
I'm asking you, did you know? So easy. Everybody.
Where is my screenshot certification?
Kelly is putting it together right now. She's putting it in a frame with gold lettering.
And she's going to spell Thurm like ERM or something
we're going to hang it right next to your body track certification.
Thank you.
No, really, you guys, Kelly just populated our message board with the email, and we would love to give everyone level 1 certifications. All you have to do is send a voiceover lesson to that email address. And then if you're interested in the body track certification, you can email Jake or I, and we can send you to that link.
Yeah.
Okay, Jake, we have one more question. Let's see. It was up in my list. Sorry, my phone's ringing. Sorry about that. Was there ever a time you used YouTube for marketing your online lessons to random golfers?
Okay. So yeah, here's my little story. This is about one of my instructors that, well, he's not mine anymore. He no longer works for me. Great friend, great player, and he did a great job for about 3 seasons with us. And he's going to go on and find his niche in golf. He came up to me once, and this will be my tip on YouTube, because I will be rolling out with a YouTube channel and stuff this year. I know I have stuff on YouTube, but you'll see that usually it's Terry Hashimoto that posts that. It's a lot of PGA Tour players. So if you're into that kind of nerdery, check it out. You know, you'll see Kevin, you'll see James Hahn, Emiliano Grillo, Nick Faldo, all these guys, right? Bill Haas, stuff like that. So here's my non-IT background way of explaining things in our day and age, in a way of to market yourself virtually. Obviously, this connects with YouTube. So one of my pros came up to me, and he goes, and we're about the same age, played junior golf together, and now he's working for me, right? So he goes, I don't get it. And I'm like, what don't you get? And he goes, I don't get why you're doing so well. Which was just, you take that backhanded compliment in stride. And I go, he goes, no offense. And I'm like, no, I'm trust me, I'm emotionally unavailable. So I go, what do you mean? And he goes, I just don't get why you're doing so much better than say I am. And I said, okay, here's the thing. I go, and I turned around, I was at my office desk. I go, we're going to go on Google. Okay. And I'm going to ask you, what are you, and here's what I try to communicate to a lot of teachers or instructors, that you're actually in sales. So I said, so what are you selling me? I go, not teaching me. I go, that'll happen when I'm here. What are you selling me? And he never thought about it that way. And he goes, I'm selling, I think he said teaching, but I want to know what he was selling. He goes, I'm selling the fundamentals of golf. I go, awesome, great. Let me put in the fundamentals of golf in Google and hit search. Now, at what point, as I scroll down, will I hit your name? And is it 20,000 hits later? Is it 30,000 hits later? Do I have to be more specific than that? And then I said, put ground force reaction expert. So we put that in Google, and I think I was number 4. And I go, that's why I'm doing well. I go, you need to differentiate, and you need to be different, especially if you're different, which I am. I'm a little off, but you need to differentiate yourself. And I'm sorry, if you're teaching the fundamentals of golf, they're not going to find you. So my advice to anybody, especially if you're doing YouTube, is there's always room at the top. And if you can be you, there's room for you, because no one at the top is you. So if it's an authentic version of yourself and your teaching style, I am sure no one is doing it that way. And I'd be the first one to tell you I'd tune in, okay? Because I love watching how other teachers teach, because great teachers are great communicators in their own way. They have to be. So if you're building a YouTube channel, which I'm going to have my own YouTube channel at some point this summer, we're going to lead off with something really cool. We're putting, I have 4 Remax Long Drive finalists in the Midwest that are all going on the V1 pressure mat. We're doing full 3D, full launch and everything. I'm not telling them to do, I'm going to just drink my coffee and tell them to, like, is that as far as you can hit it? And if they say, no, I can hit further, I'm going to be like, good, then what are we waiting for? And we're just going to, Jeremy and I are just going to analyze the data. We're just going to present that swing in every measurable detail that we can. And that's what we're going to open this YouTube channel about. I mean, so if you're going to grow that business and you're just going to, here's another thing I would tell you. I don't know about you, and maybe this is not why I'm watching the golf channel as much. The other thing is, if you're standing in front of the camera with your polo on at the same, like leaning on the 8-iron and all that kind of stuff, and you're like me, you're like some white dude, I mean, there's like That's the Google search again. There's 20,000 of that. Why am I stopping with you? Like, as a consumer, or at least a gatherer of knowledge. So differentiate. If you are different, be different. George Gangus is doing a bang up job. You will not get any hate from me. He's a friend, and he was on the Golf Channel in sweatpants. And he was untucked, but that's him, right? He's like the Johnny Knoxville of golf instruction. It's like Jackass for golf instruction. But that's an authentic version. That is how he is. So how you are, so don't go do what George does. Don't go do what Jake Thurm does, right? Go do what you do, because I think there's something that you do that no one else does. And people need to see that. And that's what I would put on YouTube. Differentiators. I would also be extremely specific with the title. In other words, if it's fundamentals of golf, no one will find you. It's that Google story. All right. So if it's ground force reaction, I actually think that nowadays, I don't think that's as hot button as it used to be. I think there's going to be 300 views, or not views, 300 videos on that. Be as specific as you can, because they're going to be very specific in what they look for, because they want that now.
Nice. And just so you know, Jeremy Smith did agree with you that you guys are nerds. Jeremy is tuned in and listening to us today.
He is, he's special. Jeremy's special. We'll just put it that way.
I see Jordan Young is making a comment to pull up the online coaches, and I'm sure that's probably because he wants to make sure that his profile is above yours on the page. So Jackson, don't pull that back up, because then I'll have Jake and Jordan both mad at me. So let's just leave that out for now. And
I selfied myself next to the V1 booth with a giant Jordan Young behind me, and I was like, WTF.
And he's saying he's done. He's over me. I think he's meaning that's, oh goodness, now I'm in trouble.
Right.
I wanted to tell everyone, you are definitely the V1 pressure mat guy. Speaking of do your thing and own who you are. We are super, super, super excited to do another webinar with you and actually get on the pressure mat. We're going to have some golfers and do some sort of remote sort of lessons with you and have you analyze some pressure traces. So I wanted to mention that. We didn't talk too much about the pressure mat, because we're going to do some specific webinars just on that. We're looking forward to it. I can't wait to get that on.
Yeah, I mean, I can't escape it, nor do I run from it. I mean, if I'm ever at like a tour event, it literally is, V1 pressure mat guy. They like point at me and they're like, hey, you got it with you, so well, that's what I'm known for. And you know what? It's a good thing to be known for. It's totally cool. When we do that, I'll tell everybody how I got involved with that. That's a common. How'd you learn all that stuff? Who got you into that? It was Sean Foley. There's a whole story there. And so it's a good thing to be known for. I'm very happy with my years with Body Track, and now the collaboration. To me, it's perfect. I grew up in golf with V1 a quarter century ago, getting my lessons that way. And then I'm known as, Body Track V1 pressure mat guy. And now you guys work together seamlessly. And in integration, you asked me about technology before and what's important to me. What's important to me may not be important to everybody on this, but what's important to me is portability, easy to use, and all of them communicating. There's a lot of great companies out there who don't play nice with others intentionally, and I have no interest in those companies, because what ends up happening at your golf academy is it's like, all right, well, here's the pressure, look at that screen. Now here's the launch data, look at that screen. Now it's like, why can't this all be on the same screen, right? Just look here. And so companies that play nicely with other companies that are not competitors of them, it's a strength in numbers play. It really is. So to me, that's another thing that's so valuable in terms of technology. That's what attracts me to technology companies.
Yeah, we have some other simulator integrations that will come out very quickly that we're excited about.
In my garage.
Yeah, right? Yes.
In my garage. Yeah. That's happening. That's happening. You heard it here.
Yeah, right. We're about an hour. We're past an hour, but I have a couple comments. Alex Clapp, my new customer from the UK, is telling me that he has you in the hair department. We'll see. We haven't had him on a webinar.
Well, we went an hour without discussing my hair.
Well, I know that.
So,
and so we're past, I could not let you go without, but I didn't bring it up. Alex did. So there you go. There, your hair looks beautiful today. And we do have a real
This
question.
is quarantine hair too. Like, you know how everybody's looking really shaggy? So this is quarantine hair. This is like 2 months worth. So
very good.
It's tough.
Okay. And so we have a real golf question too. Robert is asking, once you have given them the drill, is there homework involved before the next lesson?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So this is the stuff I love talking to. I love talking to coaches. If I can answer a question, great. But even if you had a comment, great. I love talking to coaches about coaching. So in terms of in the drill department, I'm a big drill giver. So how it's wired in my brain is how it's wired in people's brains when you're teaching golf. So the motor cortex only knows sameness and difference. That's a part of your brain that records movement. So in a lesson, in a successful lesson, be it virtually or in person, what you cannot allow for is sameness. So if you have to put something in the way, if you have to make them stand on one foot, or whatever you have to make them do, you can't allow them to continue to do the same thing. Otherwise, the inherent change, it will never materialize. And by the way, if it's too goofy of a drill, trust me, when you walk away or when you turn off the FaceTime, they're probably going to stop doing it. So at least I've always compared this to, well, yeah, they're like, I ain't doing that. But I was the kid that was doing that, right? They would like, they'd give me a single axis drill on my lead leg, and they like, the golf professional would go, keep doing that and don't stop it until I come back. And then they'd totally forget that they gave me that. And I was doing that 5 hours later, right? So if nothing else, I compare it to, I have a personal trainer, which right now it doesn't look like that. I am not in Fight Club shape. I'm more in like leaving Las Vegas shape. Anyways, a personal trainer, I always ask them because I feel like they have a lot of the same complaints that golf instructors have. I go, so when you see a guy like or somebody once a week and they work out and for that half hour or hour, and then they go home and all they do is drink beer and eat cake, I go, what do you feel about that? They go, at least they had a good workout for an hour one day a week. And that's the thing. So you have to, a successful lesson in person or virtually is convincing. This is why great coaches are great communicators. It is the convincing of people to be different for a long period of time for that to myelinate and change. And unfortunately, their limbic system of their brain is what houses their emotion. So obviously that doesn't feel good. So they think that, that sucks or it's awkward or all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, therein lies, that's the onus is on them at that point. So I love drills. I love external cues because I can't allow it. I said this to a tour player once, and this is probably when I knew it was at the end of that marriage, because the roster there is ever changing. I told him if I wanted to see it done wrong, I'd have you keep swinging. So, here's the thing. That would be the case with everyone. Whatever you're working on, they believe themselves to have this inner monologue, this inner coach this thought that'll get them to do it. And actually the spoken word or the inner dialogue might be the worst way to learn movement. So not allowing for the difference is the key there to any successful lesson.
Cool.
Or the sameness, I should say.
Chris Taylor is asking, do you predominantly do vertical or horizontal iPhone lesson videos?
Yeah, so I'm very particular about how I tape a swing. I'm very particular in general about everything. So I do vertical because I want the golfer proportioned a certain way. And I will tell, and there are other coaches that do it different ways, and I'm aware of them. I'm going to tell you how I do it. I have a camera stand. I do not hold the iPhone or iPad. You could do some breathing exercises or something and think that you're holding it really still, but I always have an extra large cup of coffee from Dunkin' Donuts, so I'm not that still. So I use, and that's what I'm talking to you on right now. I'm talking to you on this camera stand that I use in coaching. So I don't care how still you think you are. It's like the scene in Blazing Saddles. That's my trigger hand. That's what'll be on your V1 lesson. So I put the camera stand at hip height for the player. I do not go down the line like some coaches go. I put their hands, so if it's at hip height and they're bent forward in posture, I put their hands in the center of the screen, and I proportion them to see their feet and to see, so that the club doesn't leave the screen at any point, so I can observe things like face angle and shaft pitch. So again, I want them in as big in the screen, as centered as possible, but I don't want anything, even for a second, to leave the screen. So that's what I do. So you have to determine how far away that you stand based on whatever technology that you're using to tape them. But that's how I do it, 90-degree angles and hand height, and I got that from Suddy. And remember, I was taping tour players that way, so I had to do it really fast, and they weren't going to wait for me. And the first few times I did it for Doc, he probably shouldn't have paid me for my time doing that. They were awful, right? So
that's pretty funny. Let's see. Do we have any other questions? We did have another one. Hang on. My team sent it to me so I wouldn't forget to answer it. Oh, someone is asking, I don't know who asked it because it was up further in the list, but what is your swing philosophy?
So,
and we're past the hour, Jake, so
yeah,
I'm just kidding.
I got nothing to do.
I don't know if that was like
I'm
really
quarantined. If this goes on well into the evening, trust me, it won't be a green drink anymore. So what is my swing philosophy? If Jeremy's still on here, he's smiling. My philosophy would be that I teach individuals. So when I use all these technologies to hook up to people, I was certainly aware of systems and methods, but I wasn't attached to all of them. And by the way, if you're aware of them, they help someone. They have. Would they help everyone? Probably not. So I'll just tell you our process. So I could tell you, I guess we have a system, not a methodology. So our system is this, and our system is really order of implementation is the biggest thing here. So they get a physical screen from Jeremy before they ever meet me. So I've had the good fortune of not meeting a client before they were physically screened from a medical professional. Jeremy's a doctor. And he gives me a script like a doctor would get based on all of their flexibility, mobility, dissociative properties, so on and so forth. So I already kind of know what they can and can't do currently. And then I know if it's muscular or structural. Muscular can be worked on. Structural is not changing without surgery. And by the way, just because it's muscular, it's like, all right, so I have to do this. I've had people go, Jake, I like to play golf, drink beer, and play guitar. I can't touch my toes and I never want to. Can you work with that? And I go, yeah, as long as I know that, I can. It's all good. I'm not here to convince you to go into Bikram yoga. So our first step in that process is the physical screen. The second, and again, by the way, each step for them is documented with a V1 lesson where it goes to them with my voice or Jeremy's voice, basically reviewing everything that they did. So they walk around. The key is if you just give them papers, I don't know where any papers are, right? You want them walking around with them on their person, because the thing is, they're probably going to share it. Like I've just got this physical screen from Jeremy, and they're going to share it with their buddy at the bar. Like people do with, I'm told, with Tinder. I don't know. Anyways, and then the first lesson with me, I already have the script, and I do, in a very first lesson with me, I do a thorough ball flight analysis. In other words, it's my belief, I've said this a lot of times, but it's our motto that the problem is people don't know what the problem is. In other words, it's 2020. We know exactly why the ball does what it does. So it is a detailed ball flight analysis. Again, they will be getting a V1 golf lesson with all of our findings from the radar included on that. And then what I start doing is I work on, there are 2 kinetic points. One would be handle interaction, so 3D wrist angles, and the other kinetic point would be their connection to the ground, and that would be the V1 pressure mat. And basically, if you do it in that order, you are working on improving the ball flight. And if you improve the ball flight, you improve the golfer. If you make the swing look a certain way, you might improve the golfer. And at the rate that we're at, we're trying to guarantee improvement, Jeremy and I. So that's what we do. And then we do a full 3D bodysuit for data collection purposes. And then we rinse and repeat. And we actually just start over, just like Jack Nicklaus did many years ago with Jack Grout, where he would, at the beginning of every year, he would start over and he would say, teach me like I've never played golf before. So those are the steps we take. That's our system. In terms of a methodology, I'm certainly have learned from a lot of teachers of note who have methodologies. But the things that were always the most interesting to me was the people that would give, that weren't giving 8 hours of the same golf lesson. So that takes us back to Suddy. It takes us back to books like Laws of the Golf Swing and TGM and all that kind of stuff that were at least trying to make an attempt to categorize golf swings, as opposed to, you know, it can only be done one way.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ashley, welcome to V1 Pro. We are so happy to have you. She says she's new and has some questions about uploading to the locker. Kelly, can you or Jackson Noel put the customer success email so that we can get Ashley set up with some additional training since she's new on that process? Very easy. Thanks, Ashley, for joining us. And Ian has a cool question. Jake, how often would you contact or follow up with your pupils between lessons?
Yeah, so you're tempted to say as much as possible, but there is like spam and junk mail, isn't it? Like if they're getting it from you every day. So it depends on the turnaround time. So if you are already well established into this business and you are booked out months in advance, like I communicated that I've had the good fortune of, I'd go at the halfway house, right? So if they're seeing you in 2 weeks, your halfway house is 7 days. And I would check in with them. And I would remind them of the Online Golf Academy. So this is talking in-person lessons. Right now with your quarantine, if you haven't reached out, I hope I have motivated or inspired you to do that as soon as you get out of this meeting. So I'm going to say that there's a halfway house in between lessons. And if you haven't heard from that client in a while, I would send them a little note. I would tell them, hey, you know, and by the way, you know why people don't do things? It's because they don't know how, and they don't want to appear foolish. Teach them in a few sentences how to tape their swing. Include things like it's super easy, and you can download it if you have a website. I have people go to my website or now this landing page that V1 will create for you. And if you don't have that at the moment, then have them text it to you and then upload it to the app yourself. But I will preface this by saying, I don't really feel like uploading everybody's text because I get texts from important people like my wife or Mandy and Kelly and V1. And then I get like 20 useless texts from my college buddies. And that, so it all gets buried in there and then you just forget. This landing page is huge. So if you are not currently doing that, yes, you could have them send it via text over to you and then upload it to your V1 app. But I wouldn't condition them too long to get into that because I'll be darned if I'm not going to import I'm not going to import 100 videos, and that inherently takes more time too. Include words on your email like, this is super easy. Click here, do that, hit upload, it's done. It sends you a notification when it's in the box too. I really like to have a separation of church and state. So I use my email for business and I use my text messages for personal or for personal nonsense. So when that message comes over that they've uploaded their swing to your V1 Golf Academy, I just leave that in my email staring me in the face until I deal with it.
Like
it's how I organize myself. which
That's
is
how
not
I
always-
do with all of our wonderful V1 customers. Same deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your knowledge today and for sharing. What other brilliant advice do you have for our listeners today before we wrap?
Sumo Tech. So that's what I use in my hair. So if anybody was wondering, it's Sumo Tech. So it's really cool. And sea salt spray.
And we send a free sample of that out to all of our new viewers. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I wouldn't. It's a little pricey. Okay. It's a little pricey. No, but hey, I'll just end with this. I'm very honored to speak with you guys today. There's some things that I told you that you already knew, but you know what? Some of the greatest things that I've ever learned, I needed to hear again. And if I have motivated you in any way to keep going, if some of you were, I would say I'm concerned, but I'm not panicking through this whole thing. Again, I'm taking advantage of my time, and hopefully I have motivated you to do the same as well. If teaching is what you do and teaching is what you love, then you need to continue to do what you love, regardless of what's going on in the world. I have kind of adopted the axiom that not only will I survive, I will thrive. So I'm hoping that the coaches on here will do the same. As soon as you get off here, reach out to every single client and just let them know that, because you know what being a forced time away has taught me is how much I really miss coaching. And sometimes when you're coaching a lot, you're inconvenienced by it. I mean, you got to earn a living. So I've developed an appreciation for, as we socially distance, for being around people. If nothing else, reach out to them. Offer up the online academy just as a way of growing it. Start communicating with them. I'm a big believer in it's okay to do good while doing well. So if that makes you some money in this time, or if it builds an online academy, so thus when you get back out on the lesson tee, you also have this passive revenue source available to you, then this was downtime spent wisely. I would tell you just to keep going. If teaching is what you love and what you do, then don't stop. Like, seriously, don't stop. And if it was 25 years ago, I would really hope that someone would have told me that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be sitting in front of you.
We're glad you are. We're glad you're part of our team.
Happy to be here, Mandy.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Thanks, Will, for driving. Thanks, Jackson, for screen share. Thanks, Kelly, for answering our questions. Thanks to all of our wonderful pros that tuned in. And if you have questions, email sales or customer-success@v1sports.com. And we're getting lots of thank you. Thanks, Jake. It was awesome.
Okay. See you later.